All right. Well, good evening. We are thanks for joining us this evening. Certainly excited to be able to spend some time talking with a few of my colleagues here about what we're doing to be able to support academic success here. But we'll give it about another minute just to allow more people to arrive and to be part of the conversation. We'll start shortly. All right. Well, welcome again. My name is Byron Hughes. I get to serve as our Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students here at the University of Tennessee. We are very excited, as I said already, to be here tonight, to be able to spend some time with all of you and continue to do what we can to be able to equip you, to be able to make sure and to help your student be successful during their time here at the University of Tennessee. So I hope that you enjoyed the break with your student and got enough time with them and are sending them back here rest and relaxed and charged up for another semester. And that is part of the reason why tonight's topic is about academic success and working alongside others here at the university to be able to assist with that, because we know that oftentimes the winter break is a resetting point for some. It may also be I'm doing really well, I'm going to keep charging forward. It also may feel like I can't reset. And we've got some folks here to talk a little bit about really what those experiences might be and how you can be helpful to them and making sure that they can be successful. So for tonight's session, we did ask for questions to be submitted to the Family Experience team ahead of time. So because of this, we have disabled the Q&A feature to allow our session to focus on this conversation. At the end of the session, we will share the contact information for our folks, our friends here that are represented. So you can reach out, certainly, if you have any additional questions regarding any of the things that we talked about tonight. So to get us started, though, I'm going to ask our attendees, our panelists here, to tell us who they are, or to tell you all who they are, I don't know who they are, to tell you who they are, and their role here at the university. And then we'll get started with questions after that. So let's start with Dr. Sharp.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Sharp. I'm the director of the Academic Success Center here in Division of Student Success. I haven't been here too long, but I have been working in higher education for about 10 years within the Academic Success Centers. And so I'm really, really happy to be here and just share any knowledge and advice I can give to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharp. And Grace?
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Gardner, and I've had the privilege of serving as the student coordinator under the Family Experience Division for the Dean of Students. This is going to be my second year now, which is crazy. And I've been able to get involved with all the fun events that y'all can attend, such as Fall Family Weekend, Spring Family Reunion, Family Appreciation Week. And we've been spearheading a new program called DIY Family Weekend, where you get a more personalized trip to Knoxville with activities and restaurant suggestions. And apart from that, I am a senior here studying psychology with a minor in business. And I truly have such a passion for learning. And I think UT is a huge part that has helped kind of motivate me in my profession. So I'm excited to talk more.
Thanks, Grace. And for all our families and supporters, please know that we don't work Grace that hard. She certainly loves what she's doing with us in the Center for Student Advocacy and the Office of the Dean of Students, and she is a very determined student and committed student as well. And we enjoy that we get to spend some time with her each week. Well, thanks again, Dr. Sharp and Grace, for being here with us this evening. Dr. Sharp, I'm going to start with you for our questions. And one of the things I know about your background is that you have worked previously with not only just academic success, but you've also worked in kind of the area of academic case management. So you have seen students and engaged with them not just because they're trying to figure out how to register for a class or how to process the withdrawal or any of the other coaching tips that might be needed, but you're also working with people who are really experiencing some very hard times and difficult times. So I'm curious, what do you see to be some of the most common academic challenges for our students when they're starting the second semester, right? I think the first semester, fall semester, usually they feel very, very confident. They've had more time off, but now you're talking about a second semester of the academic year. And maybe when thinking about some of those common challenges, maybe you might parse it out to what do you see for our first year students, and then what do you see typically for, on up, quite frankly.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the second semester can be hit or miss for a lot of students. Sometimes the second semester is a continuation of their first, especially for our first year students who are new. It's their first semester. They kind of get in the hang of things. They are taking classes that maybe don't seem so hard to them. And so they're going into the second semester being like, oh, I got A's and B's, I'm good. And then they get into a couple harder classes, or maybe they are just not getting like right back into it like they thought. Their motivation's a little off and they're just not doing as well. And what's hard about that is in their first semester, they haven't used any of the resources because they didn't need it. They haven't went to the Vol Study Center to be able to go to tutoring or to get to have like an SI, supplemental instructor session. None of those things because they were like, oh, I'm great. And then they get to the second semester, they start to struggle, and then they actually don't know where to go. And I think that that is especially even for our transfer students that come in or new students that are here, they also may not know where to go because they may not think they need it, or then maybe they didn't listen as hard in orientation as they should have, or orientation was crazy and how are you going to remember everything? And so I think it's very much a moment of saying, I need to refocus, but sometimes I don't know the challenges that I'm about to face. And so until you get there, and then you have to be reactive instead of proactive. And I think that's really hard for students. I think the second bigger thing is around they have friends now, and I hope they have friends. I hope they have like 100 friends that they're gonna say like I know and love them and they're my best friends. But so then now they're less focused as much on academics and more really creating those relationships, which I will never, ever, ever steer clear of creating those relationships. It helps build community. You actually study more and study harder whenever you're around people who are also studying, things like that. And like you get to go to, those study sessions together and it becomes more of a community. But sometimes it can be, oh, I'm really excited to go out, so then maybe I'm not going to do this. And so I think the time management piece and that balance can be really hard for second semester. When you're new, especially like UT is grand and exciting, and like there's so many cool things to go to. And then it's like you're wanting to go to all of those things, and then but then you still have to go to class. And so it's that balance that's, I think, really hard for students.
Gotcha. I'm wondering, Dr. Sharp, with that, are there things that you typically will hear students say where it may come as a surprise to them that maybe things did not go well, that they were not able to follow through with the plan, the goals that they had set for themselves initially at the start of the academic year?
Yeah, I think a lot of our students and students in general, and really people in general, put a lot of pressure on themselves to do well. We have this pressure to, I'm at college. I need to do well. I need to make A's. I need to understand. I need to study X amount. I need to follow this plan. And I think that that pressure can really, really get to our students. And it impacts everything then along the way, where it is sometimes you're isolating yourself more. Sometimes you are sitting there saying, no, I'm not going to do anything but study. And then you're not getting enough sleep. You're not taking care of yourself. And I think with those plans, it just ends up being like our students have to learn how to adapt and pivot. And I think that sometimes students have a plan and they want to just do it. And it's our job at UT, and it's also families' responsibility too sometimes to be able to say, it's okay to like change your plan. It's okay for something to fail. It's okay that you failed at being a morning person. That's okay. You're a night person. Let's embrace it. That's how I was. Everyone always said, oh, you need to wake up earlier to study. And that never happened for me. And, I did most of the greatest writing for my dissertation at 2 a.m. And like, no one judged me for that. So I think being able to really tailor those experiences and understand that every single student is going to feel and move differently. But I think a lot of students feel like they have to do it the right way, but it's really the right way for them.
Really important. I think that, in fact, that last comment, right, the right way for them is so important because I think so often I mean, we even do it as educators, right? We sometimes can't generalize to this is the way that it may look for a first year. It might look like a first year in engineering versus
Yes.
architecture, or the transfer, the junior that is in social work versus the one that is in ag, and being able to really say what is the right way for your experience. I think that's really important. So I appreciate that perspective. Um, Grace, you've heard Dr. Sharp talking about what she and her team tend to see as being some of those kind of common challenges for students coming back for a new semester, particularly that second semester. Would you say that some of those challenges that Dr. Sharp shared mirrored some of the challenges that you faced? Are there any other challenges that maybe our families and supporters should know about?
For sure. I completely resonate with being able to find kind of your own way and your own style of learning and also studying. And I think also being able to pivot on how different classes and teachers also choose to run their classes has been a big challenge for me. I mean, I still go through it and I'm, on my eighth semester, and kind of being able to advocate for myself and ask them during office hours, like, how can I best um, do this class? How can I learn best? And just how much time is homework going to take? So I think that has been my biggest struggle. And so I think being able to get ahead of it early and go into office hours day one is going to be super awesome because also teachers, sometimes their classes are, hundreds of kids. So being able to put a name to the face can also um, really help you out as well for the entire semester. So, yeah.
Great. Great. So tell us how has your family been helpful and supportive to you? When you have faced, whether it be not just framing it as academic challenges, but just generally speaking, your academic success. What's been most helpful about the ways that they have worked alongside you to do that?
My parents have been honestly my biggest motivators, my biggest cheerleaders. I think the best thing that they've done is shared interest in what I'm learning, because that's made me want to tell them more about it, good and bad. And they're very helpful if, I have a class I'm interested in, they'll have a friend who maybe is doing that as a profession, they'll kind of connect me with them. But also then they also open up and tell me their experiences in school, kind of it's okay to fail, it's okay for, to go through a hard period of time or for you to take a W or to try again next semester because that's just how life is. So my parents have definitely been able to be the people that recenter me because I think you are on campus, you live on campus, your friends are on campus, and it can get really overwhelming. So being able to kind of go back to my center with them has been awesome. So yeah.
Great. Have your parents ever had a hard time being able to be interested in your learning, knowing that you might be learning things that might be something that they have no knowledge of or awareness of, and not to mention you're here in Knoxville, they're back at home, so they don't know fully everything that might be happening in the course of your day. So how have they been able to take interest in your learning, knowing that it may just be again completely different than anything they know, anything that they may have studied while they were in college, anything they have any reference point for?
Honestly, my parents got pretty involved early on in kind of the resources that I had on campus. So they've been pretty involved, like they'll follow the UT psychology Facebook or, I think even though my parents might not understand like my, Calc 125 homework, just them being proactive and modeling that they care about the resources that I have and that I should get engaged in them has been incredibly helpful. And also, like I mentioned, they do have friends who are interested in what I'm studying, so they will ask them about that as well. So I think that's both of those things have been really helpful.
It's good. I kind of like the way that they kind of spread that out to include the network of other people that they know that because I feel like, I mean, I'm a parent now, and I know that my kids don't always listen to me, but they will certainly listen to a friend that says the exact same thing. So it sounds like it's really helpful to have a bit of a village there that they have that can help you and be supportive of you and that they can tap into. So, and that's the thing, another reason why we find it to be so incredibly important to create affinity spaces for our families, and a lot of the initiatives that you're getting to work with on our family experience team of bringing families together in spaces that they can also network and connect to each other for the purpose of being able to do really truly what your parents have been able to do for you. So thanks for sharing that, Grace. Dr. Sharp, so Grace is talking a little bit about how her family has really been helpful and really been engaged and really done that right from the start. And we know that is incredibly important for the success and certainly the increased well-being of our students. I'm wondering, in your time of doing this work, what are ways in which you can kind of help our parents and family support folks really be engaged without also maybe micromanaging and certainly that experience. And then the second part to that question is, we're a Clifton Strengths campus, and so we believe in helping our students kind of work within what they're good at doing, as opposed to always focusing in on the negative. How do you help, families also not look at a grade report and skip to the lowest grade and start talking about that, as opposed to looking at what's really going well on that, grade report and saying, oh, how did you get that B, right? Or how did it go? Or how did you feel about getting that A? So two-parter question, but, share with us any thoughts you might have.
Yeah. I feel like the way that I've always described it is you are a part of their team. Like you are a team member in their success. And so being able to frame it that way, it is if they fail or succeed, like you're just a part of that. You're not the full part of that. You're not the coach. They are the coach of their own experience. You are there as a mentor, you are there as a support system, you are there to help guide them. I constantly in my work that I've done, I've really created a foundation of saying, I don't want to just help students and give them the answer. I want to be able to help them figure out how to give the answer to themselves. And so they can practice that and they can learn how to do that in the future. And then we're creating students who have so much self-efficacy and being able to ask the right people the right questions and so much confidence in being able to move forward. And so if you build that, especially early in a student's academic career, then you're getting to the point where by the time they're sophomore, junior, senior, and then graduating, you are creating this environment to be able to be supportive, but also to say like they don't need you as much anymore, which is a good thing. I think that's sometimes where parents are like, no, 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 no. And like, they're always going to need you. But I promise that it's a good thing that they don't need you all the time for these things, especially as they continue in their careers. And so you want them to thrive. You want them to be able to do it on their own by the end. So I think that is one thing. I think also being able to frame some of your questions in a way that is not a deficit conversation. So instead of saying, what are you struggling with? What are your challenges at first? Being able to be like, what's your favorite class? What are you learning in it? Or because then it encourages it creates a less of a deficit mindset and being able to like, I want to talk to you about these things. These are the things I want to explore. And that thing can lead to a place where they feel safe enough to even tell you what may be going wrong, because it may be their choice to tell you what's going wrong. And you want them to be able to do that. So then you can be a help in their support. So I think that's a big thing. I think the conversation around, the being able to say, but I want them to succeed is what I hear a lot from parents and families. And I think for me, it is, yeah, me too. But like, there is so many people on campus that are there to help your students do that's just that. And I think that's where I think a lot of parents feel there's this moment where it's like, no, 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 but I have to do it, because especially they've done that all through K through 12. And there was a support system there, K through 12, but we have a robust support system here at UT and in every university where we have academic coaches, we have academic advisors, we have student support staff, we have peer mentors, we have all of these things for you that students just aren't tapped in yet. And I think that those are the people that, again, is a part of the team. And so allow also the other parts of the team to help your students succeed. I think your question around not completely focusing on, the F or the D that they got is really around the the build up to that FRD. And I think it is what Grace was talking about. It's being able to be involved in those conversations to where if they got a C, but it was their 100%, then, and you knew that because you had the conversations and you encouraged them and you helped support them through that, you should be celebrating that C with them because they did 100%. Not every student is going to have a straight A's, and that is realistic and that is okay. And we should be able to be accept that sometimes. We hope, but I think that being a strength-based campus and thinking about our strengths rather than our weaknesses, I wasn't great at math sometimes, and but I also was like excelled in a lot of writing and critical thinking and being able to think through like I was a history major for a second. I was like four different majors. And that created though an environment where I got to understand how people think. I got to understand different perspectives, and that got me here. And I'm doing really well, and I love my job, and I love my career, and I feel very successful. And that wasn't because I got the C in math. And I think that's where we lose it sometimes, is this conversation where like 10 years from now, when we look back, what is really going to be our experience? And it is, I actually found the career for me and found the pathway for me through my strengths and not my weaknesses.
Oh, thanks so much, Dr. Sharp. I appreciate that. I think it's so hard, right? When you want to focus in on the weakness, right? You want to focus in on the thing that you can fix because you want it to be better. And we know that students should have a relatively short time frame if they're in college, 4 to 5 years, is usually what we're looking at, right? And so we want to be able to give students be able to the space, right, to be able to explore that. But of course, we also want them to be able to finish as soon as they possibly can. But it's a really tender balance, I think I'm hearing you say, to you can certainly think about things that you're not good at doing, but I think part of the creating spaces of hope for our students is recognizing, well, what's really going well, and then why is that going well for you, and then being able to turn the conversation towards what's not going well to be able to figure that out. Grace, I'm wondering, did any of that resonate with you when thinking about times throughout, UT for you now that you are a senior, where you did hit a wall, a class did not go so well, maybe a particular assignment didn't go so well, and you're left trying to figure out, like, how do I rebuild, or how do I go forward, and where do I need to focus my time and energy in trying to be able to be successful?
Oh, for sure. Multiple classes. I think growing up, I always wasn't the best at math. And I found myself I think it was my junior year taking two math classes in the same semester. And I think one of my biggest struggles was shifting my perspective from um, I felt successful from a grade and not I just felt successful if I learned. So taking the semester as how much can I learn? The rest kind of followed, if that made more sense, because I was looking at it as it was more fun to me. It wasn't so much pressure. And I think that's kind of been consistent with a lot of my friends too. But I also really liked what Dr. Sharp talked about is how much we are a strengths-based campus, because I also am not the loudest person in the room, but I do have a really good ability on being an active listener and facilitating things. So when I had projects with other people, maybe I could utilize that in some other way and still, end up super successful with a great grade in that class, like not getting discouraged in that way. So I do think looking at your classes with a more problem solving perspective, and also like Dr. Sharp said, really keeping in mind down the road, like I do not remember that fact that I didn't get a good grade on that class freshman year. I remembered teachers or friends who helped me along the way. So yeah, I think looking at it from more of a learning perspective too has really helped.
Grace, I won't put you on the spot and ask you for your top five flips and strengths, because we've got about 100 people watching, and that may be something that may be personal to you. But I'm curious, since you are obviously you recognize and understand the initiative right around flips and strengths, and helping our students know them. I'm curious, did have your flips and strengths factored into your ability to figure out ways to be successful, here at UT academically? How, like to your point, how you navigate sitting in a room maybe full of 50 people or more, or how you think about when you want to engage a faculty member, or when you want to look for a resource and go get that resource or participate in some sort of coaching session. So I'm wondering how have those Clifton strengths for you maybe been helpful in you formulating your own plan for success?
Yeah, honestly, they've been really huge, and it's been fun to see how they've kind of popped up differently depending on the semester. But one of mine is context, and then another one is input. So I'm definitely very analytical. So when I start a new semester, being able to kind of what's the background on the class, maybe what are some of the projects we're going to be doing, or if I had even like maybe a job interview, kind of going about it from that perspective, or what are my resources that I can have? When are office hours? Like leaning on that has been super helpful. And it also feels very rewarding because it's something that comes easy to me. And it's something for me to fall back on when, you get the grade back. It's not awesome and it can be easy to freeze, but being able to lean on those strengths that you do have and pivot has been really, really awesome. And I did talk about like restorative being another one of mine. So, being able to have maybe two people who have very different opinions in my group, kind of finding some common ground. Like I still was able to be successful, even if, public speaking still does make me a little bit nervous. So yeah, they've been way more helpful than I could have imagined the first day I did the test. So yeah.
Well, Grace, you actually do know your top five Clifton strengths. That was you did not know I've been able
Yeah.
to ask that question. It's not even on the script for tonight, but I appreciate you knowing that. And I think, for our families and supporters, strengths that utk.edu is a great site for you to be able to visit, spend some time on, learn about how we utilize Clifton strengths from the Gallup organization and how that is working into all of how we develop our students holistically, who they are individually, going through their journey here at the University of Tennessee. So, great, good job in being able to kind of walk through that because I think that's really, really important. And I know Dr. Sharp's team and all of our teams, particularly in academic success, they're constantly talking about Clifton strengths and how that applies to your academic success. So, great, good work there. If you're out on campus one day when the chancellor is out, she might give you a free coffee voucher for knowing your top five Clifton strengths. She's definitely known to do that. Dr. Sharp, so, I'm curious if you could maybe share with our families and supporters a little bit about the Academic Success Center, what maybe families and our families and supporters can expect for what kind of support their students would receive from the Academic Success Center, the academic coaching that you all are doing, all of those things, right, that help take folks like Grace and, really kind of get them back to the place where they want to be.
Yeah, so we have a pretty robust academic coaching model. I would say that if I had to describe the Academic Success Center, it's like three-ish pillars. And one of them is the academic coaching side. And so it's one-on-one support for the most part. It can be some group, but one-on-one support if you would like it. And it is really diving deep into what are some of the skills to be able to help you use your strengths to get to where you want to be. And so that could be study skills, time management skills, even preparing for tests or setting some goals for yourself, some academically driven goals. It could really run a gamut of academic things. And so what's great about those to me is that you're going to sit in front of somebody who really, really cares about you. They have never met your student before, but they are so deeply, deeply concerned and care for your student before they even walk into the door. And so they want your students to succeed, but they also want to do it in a way where they feel cared about, they feel supported. And that's really our model here. They are available to students throughout every single year. They do a lot of active work within the first year, but they are available anytime. So if you ever wanted to have your student encourage them to be an academic coach, if your students talk about academic coaching, that is what they are expected, a very like strong relationship if they want to with their coach that could last all 4 or 5 years. I also think that within academic coaching, and we forget about this sometimes because I think coaching, everyone thinks it's just skills. Coaching is also something where you're getting kind of the resource base too. We're like hearing your challenge. What is maybe the underlining thing of your academic challenges? And what Dr. Hughes was talking about earlier, where my background is in a lot of this academic advocacy work, is around the topic of a student may walk in and we start having a conversation around time management. But in reality, it's that something happened. Their parent passed away. They're having some food insecurities. Maybe they just broke up with their significant other that they've had since high school. Like things like that, that's the thing that's impacting the time management, that's impacting the class. And for us, we want to make sure that we're getting down to the root of the challenge and getting them support. So that may be getting them to a care and resilience, or getting them maybe it's a financial issue, getting them to One Stop, supporting them through a conversation with student disability services, things like that that we don't talk about enough in coaching. And I want you to know, as families, to be able to know that there are some people on campus that are getting and making sure that if they hear something, they're getting them to the right place. And academic coaches is one of those groups of people on campus. The second big part of our Academic Success Center is the Vol Study Center. And so the Vol Study Center has a few things. They have study sessions, or what maybe you heard as like tutoring, but we call it study sessions if you hear that. Tutoring can happen, study sessions can happen one-on-one. And for them, it's really being able to dive deep into what the content is within the course. If you ever go on the website, you can see what courses that we support. We also have something called supplemental instruction. And so that SI is what you may have heard it as recalled to, but it's supplemental instruction. No one knows it as that. They know it as SI. What that is students are actually, the SI leaders are embedded in the class. And so they're sitting there with your students in the class, watching the class happen. They know what is being studied, being taught, and then they are actually creating a big study group for your student. Statistically, if your students go to SI, they're going to pass the class or get a higher grade than students who don't. And so I would say that is the biggest thing that you can encourage our students to go to if we have SI for those courses. Again, these are student-led things. Peer-to-peer conversations are so much better sometimes than a faculty member or a professor saying, you need to learn this, than a student saying, yes, you need to learn this. And here is also a way that maybe you can reimagine how this is being taught. They are wonderful. I think the third big pillar that, again, we don't talk about, I think, enough is that we do a lot of the appeals. And so it's a lot of policy work. Policy is not fun. It is not something that I think we talk about often, which is okay, because I want your students to go to academic coaching in the Ball Study Center. But if your student is struggling with thinking about withdrawing, or like wanting to know just what the process is, or they're having a challenge that that could be around something with policy, again, our academic coaches can really help out on that understanding side of it, or get you to the right places that can help you understand it, get you to the academic advisor to help understand how it interacts with their course schedule and what they can do, and get them to One Stop for the financial conversation. But I think we don't talk about that enough, because that may happen. I was the first person that went to college in my family, and for me, I didn't know how to add and drop classes. I did not know what withdrawals meant. I did not know what anything was until my junior year, and it would have saved me. And so I always say that I wish I had a coach, or I wish I had someone to come in and be able to say, hey, you know that there's this policy that we have on campus where you can withdraw up to 3 times in your career. And I'm like, I didn't know that. And that saved me in my junior year, being able to withdraw from a class. So it literally changed my life. That one class changed my life to be able to withdraw. So just know that we are here for you. We are here for your students in every step of the way.
And Dr. Sharp, on the note of talking about withdrawals, sometimes it's a course withdrawal, sometimes it might be a full-term withdrawal, depending upon how things are going. Is it a bad thing to have to withdraw from a class? Is it a bad thing to suddenly realize as a student, I just need to fully withdraw from the term and maybe take some time off?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the situation. Sometimes you may want to stay in the class because of a scholarship that you need to stay full time for financial aid. Maybe you need to stay full time, and that's okay. Sometimes then we take kind of that F and then retake the class. So there's always a plan B, which I always want to tell families is there's always a plan B. If plan A doesn't work, like we don't get an A, we maybe can withdraw. We can't withdraw because of circumstances. Okay, we get the F, you can retake the class. So there's always some sort of plan B, C, D, E, or F. And so for me, it's being able to really think about, for your circumstances, what does that look like? I think and I've worked with, again, many, many students who've been through very, very situations that have destroyed where they're at in life at that moment. And for me, sometimes it's those moments where I say, Withdrawing is actually a way where you can pause, recenter, be okay, and then you come back and you come back recentered. I had a student years ago who their first semester, freshman year, their dad passed away about 2 weeks before the classes started. And she was adamant that she wanted to stay in classes. And I tried very hard to say, like, well, this is how we can support you because this is your decision, but you know there's this option that you can take. And she didn't take it. And that next semester, she didn't do well. And that next semester, she tried again and she was like, no, 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 I'll be fine. And I'm like, but if you can, like, you can take it. And she finally, her sophomore year, took that break and she did a full withdrawal and she came back and she was like, that's all I needed. I just needed a few months to just grieve and be okay. And I think students, again, they put so much pressure on themselves that this is how they're supposed to do it. But that's why we have withdrawal policies. It's why we have add-drop policies. It's why we can repeat because we're really looking out for you at the end of the day for those circumstances.
That's great advice. I was recently talking with a parent whose student had a medical emergency, and I told her, I said, just encourage your student once he's ready to start thinking about school again, to just take the time that he needs to be able to recover because life is hard and college is very difficult. And if you're trying to manage whatever you're going through on top of trying to pass classes, study for quizzes, focus in on a study group, do a project, in addition to all the other aspects of your life, there's a good chance it's not going to go well. And then you're just dealing with the disappointment that you have in yourself that you weren't able to do it. So absolutely that taking that time I think is really, really important because I think so many times students and sometimes their families and supporters are kind of on a plan for
Yeah.
got to push through, you got to go through. And what we
I
often
think
do,
we forget that students are students, but students are also human. And
yeah,
I think we
yeah,
have to take a step back to say, like, yeah, you're a student, but you also went through something really hard.
yeah,
I think we need to support that.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Sharp. So Grace, I'm curious, so you are shifting gears a bit. You are a very busy person. Obviously, you spend some time up here in our office. And again, we appreciate the work that you do with us and you're a very committed student and you're also very involved. So how do you stay organized academically, right? I know that some of our families and supporters are maybe having conversations with their students about maybe you might want to maybe step back from this one thing that or three things that you're doing or you really got to get, fine tuned around how you're balancing yourself and how you kind of pay attention to what's going on around you. So what are some of the things that you do to stay organized?
I think one of the first things, because I am one of those people where I will say yes to so many things because UT is so awesome that it offers you a million things to do, but also you can fill up your schedule really, really fast and get really overwhelmed. So I think the first couple weeks of class, I usually kind of try to keep my activities to a minimum just to see like how long are my classes taking me? How much homework can I kind of expect? And then I start to kind of implement more extracurriculars in. I also do have the philosophy of just taking it week by week and creating like plans for what's going to happen that week. I do like forming an overarching goal for the semester, but I do think it can get kind of overwhelming and a little bit ambiguous on what I'm supposed to accomplish. So I think, yeah, taking it week by week, whether that be you like a planner, you use Outlook, Google Calendar, you tell your roommates what is happening and they check in with you. Whatever that looks like has really, really helped me when I've been busy and keeping a routine um, as well. So, yeah, I would say that those have been the biggest helps for me.
Grace, you mentioned, having roommates, I guess, and how they might act as accountability partners or buddies, right? I'm wondering how critical has the friend group that you've had and different people that you interact with, how critical has that been for kind of helping you remain focused academically, and having maybe are your friends kind of also similarly academically focused the same way? Are they in a different space altogether? But how important has that friend group been for your ability to be successful?
I think it's been really the one of the biggest motivators for me at UT, and also one of the reasons I chose to come to UT from so far is because the foundation of UT being volunteers is that we're here to help and support each other. And I really do see that in my classes. I always make a friend in class. We talk a lot. There's always communication, group meets, study sessions. My friends are asking me to go to the library, just talking about a class if it's been difficult, giving recommendations on like how to best go about a class if they've had the professor before. So, I mean, really, I have surrounded myself with like-minded friends and that we do prioritize school, but you're going to be able to find that honestly anywhere on campus if it's not really a priority in your immediate friend group. And I think getting involved on campus with the dean of students, I've been able to realize how many more resources I do have because of it. So they've been awesome. I'm gonna miss them all when I graduate. So yeah.
Grace, I'm wondering, how did you like decide or determine that going to get help from faculty members, emailing them, attending an office hour, maybe taking advantage of the resources around you in terms of offices, whether it be places like Academic Success Center or, the academic program, services that are offered within your college. I mean, when did you figure out that that's what you needed to do, right? And how did you figure out that like this was yours, right? To be able to, this is yours to figure out and yours to be successful at, or of course yours to make a mistake at.
I think I kind of realized it really, I mean, I would say pretty immediately. College is very difficult because it involves, emotional, social aspects to it. And my teachers have gone through it before, so they really are kind of the best people to get help from. And I think also, I know Dr. Sharp kind of talked about this, but seeing getting help as being smart, that's always been really hammered in, I think in a lot of aspects of UT of like reaching out for help, like it makes life so much easier and just your experience so much better. So that's kind of the method I've gone about because I have tried to do it on my own before and quickly figured out that that's not very successful. And they've always been there to pick me back up, whether that be friends or classmates or teachers. So yeah.
Well, and I think, Ray, sometimes I often hear that students, I mean, every student is attempting typically to find resources. Sometimes, though, they may, for example, email a faculty member doesn't respond, and they kind of close the door on, I guess I just can't be supported. Or they may call One Stop, right, trying to figure out how to withdraw from a course. And maybe they don't get the right answer, or maybe they're on hold for a while and they decide I'm just going to click off, and that's fine. So it does sound like a lot of it is about being persistent enough to realize there's just so many different places to be able to find those answers. And of course, we often say that, the Office of Dean of Students is a place to start for students. And, we developed the Center for Student Advocacy as a result of that. That if you don't know where to go or where to start, you can start there. And those folks can certainly be helpful in getting you where you need to be. But not just stopping at the roadblock, right, that comes your way because someone doesn't respond, or maybe they respond and it's not very helpful and you feel even more lost. So, it sounds like you've been able to navigate figuring out how to be persistent about it, keep going. um, well, Dr. Sharp, I have a question for you. So you have used the term academic coach. And for a lot of our families and supporters, that may not be a term that they are very familiar with because that's something that we have obviously invested in quite a bit here at the University of Tennessee to make sure our students can be successful. So for them to understand, what is the difference between the academic coach and the academic advisor?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get it a lot. And I've gotten it at every place I've worked where I have either built or supported academic coaches in some way or another. If we think about the foundation of what is like everyone here at UT wants to help your student. So like that's everyone. Everyone at UT wants to support your student in some sort of capacity. What we think though is, and the way that you can kind of like frame it is being able to say, but what is their foundation of help? And so a good example, it's a very clear one, is like thinking about finances, you go to One Stop. So they're supporting you, they care about, they want you to succeed within it, but their foundation is financial aid, and financial support and care. And so for us, if we think about it, it's being able to say, thinking about skill sets, thinking about academic challenges when it comes to those skill sets, thinking about, having a challenge, you don't know what to do with it, being able to see what is impacting my classes, and why am I having challenges in this specific class, but not this one. those are all academic coach conversations that you can have. When it comes to academic advising, they may be thinking some of the same things, and that's where the confusion is. They're going to still support you. They're going to think of that holistic care, things like that. But they're also thinking about how is this going to impact the next class that you're in? If you're not doing well in this class, then you may not do well in the next math class or the next bio or the next chem. So let me get you to a coach so then you can talk through some more of those academic skill sets to get you to maybe where you need to be so then you are supported in the next class. Being able to think through how grades impact certain things. So you have to have certain GPAs for certain majors. They're thinking about that while we are more thinking about let's just doing our best and growing our strengths and being able to think through that for you to do well. And these may be specific classes or overarching classes. We just have a different foundational mindset on how we help a student. And so I think that's where like coaching can happen anywhere. And it could happen within just like me talking to a student randomly and they're like, yeah, I'm having trouble with this. And I'm literally sitting there coaching them through, well, have you thought about this? Do you think about this? And like that comes naturally for me. It also comes naturally for a lot of academic advisors. It could come literally naturally to Dr. Hughes. Like it's like, and students can do this all the time to each other, right? Like, oh, well, have you tried this? And so it happens organically. But I think what's great about having dedicated space, time, people for it is that someone is always going to be available for you. And so that may not happen organically all the time, or it may not happen within friend groups or within your faculty or things like that. And so for me, it's being able to really center down into the academic lens. And then how can we make sure we're supporting you in the academic lens or getting you to the right places to support the things that may be impacting the academics?
That's really helpful. And I think it's important for our families and supporters to know that you won't go wrong in where you go, whether you're going to the academic coach or going to the academic advisor. If either one feels like the other person should be answering that question or providing those resources, they are also very much connected through a coordinated care system that we have here to make sure that all the information does sit in one place. And so our academic coaches can see notes that our academic advisor is taking related to a meeting with a student and vice versa. The advisor can see what the academic coach notes say. So it really does help to be able to make sure that we consider the student at our support efforts. So thanks for educating us about that, about the distinction there. Well, we have time for one final question. And so, I'll give the same question to both of you, and we can start with Grace. The question is, what's the single piece of advice that you have, for our families and supporters that if you had only one piece of advice to be able to offer them about how to help their students be successful, this would be the piece of advice. So Grace, we'll start with you.
I think I would go back to being invested in your student and what they find interesting. I think that's, been cultivated. My parents have always been, super interested in what I find interesting. So I think when your student sees that you're invested in them and invested in their learning, then they are more honest with you and where they're at. And also, your student better than anyone else. So when they can't be honest with you, like I'm taking this math class coming up, I'm really nervous about it, then you can kind of go to the, academic success center and say like, hey, let's get the ball rolling now. So I think, being able to model what behavior you want your student to go into the semester with by having that passion, having that interest in what they're learning, I think, at least for me, I've modeled that from my parents. So yeah, I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
That's great. Dr. Sharp?
I think for me, and this may be maybe not as much, I think it is around academic success, but I think it's something that we miss in conversation is really their health and well-being. A lot of students will like sleep culture is a real thing. They are like, oh, I don't have to sleep. I can study all night. Or like really navigating their own mental health and well-being is something that they push aside a lot to focus in on this like concept of math or concept of writing. And I think being able to really find, as we think about holistic support, that's part of it. And so think about yourself as a person that can be a holistic support for your student. And that's a lot of different things. And so I would say being able to really focus in on, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you like feeling good? Because really that's going to be one of those reasons why they're not doing well. Yeah, it could be time management, it could be study skills, it could be motivation, it could be a lot of things. But I find that in those things, we really find that they're not sleeping, they're not eating, they're not taking care of themselves, they're having those challenges, and they don't know where to go for those either. And so I think being able to really check in with your student about those things and helping support them there really actually sets them out for a foundation of academic support as a secondary part of that. And so just keep on, like, keep staying with your student, help them try new things. I think that's something that they are scared to do too. And be able to really support them in what they do well and their strengths. And I think that they will really see that as somewhere where you are a support system for them and not someone who's kind of just like pushing them to push them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Dr. Sharp, so what is the best way for families and supporters to contact your office if they want additional information?
Go to our website. So you can literally Google Academic Success Center, UTK, and you will find us if you, that's the easiest way, but we can also send you over the website. There's honestly a way just on the front page to create schedule a meeting with an academic coach to be able to look at our SI sessions and to do a study session, to schedule one of those, to look at our workshops. Our website's gonna be the best way. We also have an email address if you'd like to email us, call us. We're always available and we'll always find a way to make sure that we stay connected. Your students are also a part of their app, their Vol Connect app. They go on their Vol Connect app and download that, and they can literally see who these people are within their team. If you're a first year student, a new transfer, you're going to have an academic coach assigned to you. If you're not and you're past that time, then you're going to have someone like a career coach assigned to you who's going to also think about some of these things, but again, foundationally thinking about your career and how that really impacts as you move forward with getting that career. So we're here for you no matter what. We'll find a way.
It's great. And since Grace is a student, we won't ask her for the best way to contact her. But I will say that Grace, in addition to being a student, we've referenced that Grace is a part of our Center for Student Advocacy team as an undergraduate student, as student coordinator for the family experience. So if there is something that you might want more information about as relates to Grace, certainly if you can contact dos@utk.edu. We can get that information over to Grace for Grace to respond to you, or certainly have one of our team members in that office work to help you out. And one of the things, again, I always remind folks of is that even though we're a large university, our offices do work well together, and particularly offices like the Center for Student Advocacy and our Academic Success Center, in being able to make sure that our families, supporters, and of course our students are always taken care of in the best way possible. So anytime there is a block that's hit, just know that these folks on the screen particularly are people that care deeply about making sure that we get answers, and that's ultimately, again, that your student is going to be able to persist here and feel like they matter, they belong, and that we care a lot about their success and well-being. So thank you again, Dr. Sharp and Grace, for joining tonight's conversation. I think it was very, very helpful. I'm sure that our families and supporters that are on tonight would also say the same thing. Good opportunities to remind them of what we have available here, and hopefully start new conversations that they may have related to their students. I would like to share a few reminders before we conclude our evening. For those that are watching this evening, please take a moment to complete the session survey. And so you can follow the link that's in the chat box or in the post-session email to be able to provide your feedback, and also to be able to provide any other suggestions related to topics or things that you might want to know about, and other conversations that we could host here in this space. So as always, we appreciate what you're doing to be able to support your students, and we also deeply appreciate that we get to do that alongside you. So have a good night and go Vols.